Can you hear me? Okay, good. Can't really see you. So I'm Joe Doucet, and may I first say what a thrill it is to be back in India with you. I honestly feel it is, out of all my travels, it's the place in the world that is the most stimulating, the most inspiring, and the most beautiful, literally, I've ever been. Oh, so you agree. That's great. Fantastic. So my practice is called Joe Doucet and Partners, and we are based in New York. You've heard of it. And, you know, our work is really, when I say multidisciplinary, we focus on product design, architecture, packaging design, art, technology, medical devices, even sex toys, but that's a different presentation I'll give on that one. And, you know, although these may seem like disparate endeavors, there really is a thread which I feel ties them all through, and I think it's important to understand in anyone's work, and that is a fundamental core philosophy and set of guiding principles which really and truly define everything we do. And, you know, they're quite simple and quite direct. We work at the intersection of design and innovation, and sustainability. And, you know, I kind of feel it's a bit important that I define these as they relate to us, because, you know, for example, design can mean so many different things. You just walk around the fairgrounds, there's 100 different interpretations of what it means. Well, to me, in my practice and my planning, I'm talking about intentional outcome. A design is planning for a specific reaction and solution. And when I say innovation, you know, innovation, of course, can mean, you know, many different things. Innovation is really the key that we're talking about. It's really seeking insights which lead to a specific and better and often new, as a result, outcome. And when I say sustainability, of course, I'm talking about, do these projects, does this impact the world in a better way? Does it benefit the users? Is it responsible? Is it a responsible project? And I feel that when all three of these things come together, that is when you have a product or project or endeavor worthy of existing. And so I'm going to take the next few bits of your time, and I'm going to walk you through some of these projects that we have done that I think best illustrate how these core principles can come into you know, really impact your world, impact your work, and as a result, have that work leave a larger impact, hopefully, on society. So the first project I'm going to talk about is a seating system we did for Times Square. Times Square contacted us. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, let's see what happens. Here we go. All right. So Times Square contacted us to see and asked us to, well, you know, design a seating system for Times Square. It seems like a very straightforward commission that you might get. But, you know, I began thinking, I'm like, what could a seating system do apart from just, you know, create a place and a space for people to sit and congregate? You know, could it bring more? What are unique challenges of a seating system in the context of a place like Times Square? Well, as you know, Times Square in New York is very, very busy, heavily populated. And, you know, what are some of the challenges with that? Well, it was sort of top of mind that, you know, it's actually quite a target in terms of weaponized vehicles, even out-of-control vehicles. There was an accident, you know, quite certainly. I thought, you know, could seating system, something as simple as a seating system, provide a solution to this sort of thing? So, you know what, I came up with this concept about, you know, could I take a seating system And rather than have it be this mass, use mass in order to create a barrier of protection, could I think of it more as a way of dissipating the energy away from an oncoming vehicle? Something that would, utilize, think of it more like a bulletproof vest, which isn't necessarily this large mass that dissipates the energy. It's actually the folding of the fabric. I was kind of intrigued with this. We ran some tests in the studio. We then, along with Times Square, we hired a third-party consultant, and it turns out that this idea was not only feasible, it was actually extraordinarily impactful in taking these large, 8,000 kilo vehicles going at 80 kilometers per hour and stopping them in a very short distance. And so somehow I talked them into, letting this be the seating that is in Times Square. And what's interesting about it to me is forget everything I just said, right? Forget all that. That's not what's interesting. That's what's interesting to me. To the people who use the seating, it's just a place for them to sit and interact. The typology of it and the layout creates these new and interesting connections, and it sort of forces you this communal interaction, which is something that's completely missing from New York. It gives you every aspect that you want a seating to do. Sit by yourself. If you sit in a particular way, you're forcing interactions with strangers. And what I think is successful about it in terms of a design project is that its use, its secondary use, what it's there doing, protecting the people who are in Times Square, they're completely oblivious to it. They know nothing about it. It's just a seating system to them. And I think there's a power in that, and I think that's one of the solutions that you hope design brings. It makes their lives better. It's not reminding them they're in danger by creating this massive concrete barriers that you see everywhere, right? It's just a beautiful seating system, a silent protector, if you will. As a result, this took Fast Company Magazine's award for urban architecture, and it was the seating design of the year from Design Magazine, which made Times Square very happy. It made us a bit chuffed too. And led to further projects with Times Square. So I will take you in a very different direction now. So Reebok, the athletic shoe company, they developed a new type of technology. It's a 3D knitting fabric called FlexWeave. And they commissioned us to create a project to help promote it. They wanted to do something that is outside of just putting it in shoes. And so they asked us to take this textile and do something interesting with it, but it has to be around running somehow. Well, the only challenge with that is I hate running. Like, I find it so boring. When you're going out on a run, I get halfway there. I can't wait to turn around and come back, and I just, it's a great place to start a challenge with something that you hate, not just something that you love. So I thought, well, how could I change that? How could I make myself actually want to run? How could I make it more interesting and inspiring? So I really thought about, well, what if I gamify running, right? What if instead of planning a route, running down, coming back, I simply are able to type in the distance I want to run, and every time I'm taking a different route, anywhere I want. I see something new, it's more interesting, it becomes a more engaging endeavor if you gamify it. Well, you can't really run with an app in your hand, but I did like the idea. So what I did was I started to, obviously experiment in the studio, and what I came up with was a very simple device, a set of running gloves, which isn't really a thing, but it is now, a set of running gloves, and I used basic, simple technology, GPS, LED lights, haptic motors, and Bluetooth to connect to your phone and your device. And what this does is that when you're running, You have your distance in the app, and the gloves take you for a run. Now, how do they do that? Well, they have haptic sensors in them. So when you're running, when you want to turn right, they buzz and blink. You turn right. When it wants you to go left, they buzz and they blink and they go left. And they make a game out of letting you run and having you come back around. In addition, the advent of the lights makes for morning running, evening running, a much safer prospect. It's sort of the added benefit of this, and what I thought was a better use of it is actually for bike messengers, people who commute on bike or motorcycle, where it's very difficult to follow GPS on your phone, but as you're sitting there riding, coming up, turn left, coming up, turn right. Sorry, I don't know my left from my right. Yeah, left, right. As a result, after trying this out for a while, I still hate running. But I like the gloves. So this is kind of interesting. So I started working with the two founders of a company called Air Company very early on, when they were just beginning in the concept stage. And they had a really interesting technology. They're able to capture CO2 and run it through a patented electrolysis process. And the end result of capturing that CO2 is a 99.9% pure ethanol. As you know, ethanol is alcohol. So in the inception of building a business out of this, we had to make a determination of which one of the verticals are we going to go first, where ethanol, alcohol, is a key ingredient. You have fuel for cars and jets. It's a key ingredient in things like fragrance, which is a massive business. And obviously, alcohol is a key ingredient in, drinking alcohol. So we determined that we were going to launch this company and launch this brand by making the world's most sustainable vodka, right? It's truly every bottle of this vodka takes 1 kilo of CO2 out of the atmosphere. So it is one of the truly first carbon positive products in the world. Well, the challenge wasn't designing a beautiful bottle. Like any designer worth their salt can design something, which is beautiful and it's award-winning, whatever. But the real challenge was, how do you sustainably package, the world's first carbon positive, product such as this? And so here's sort of one of the traps that I find when dealing with sustainability. Again, one of the core features and focuses of our studio. Everything that we produce and put out there is sustainably responsible. But one of the traps you find with sustainability is it's easy to default to say, okay, maybe we should make this out of hemp fiber or bamboo, or focus purely on the materials. Whereas in most cases, that's a less sustainable option than what is readily available, like glass. But if you want to package the world's first fully sustainable vodka, I wanted it to have a second use and a second life. So I wanted the product, when it's done, to be able to be pilled and removed, and it become a watercraft, it become a vase. It have a secondary use in your life cycle. Well, that sounds easy, but it's actually, here comes the really hard part. A vodka has to be submerged in water, ice water. It has to be kept in a freezer. And I wanted a label that would both still adhere in those conditions and be removed with no residue. You want that end use, that end experience of the user to be joyful when they're peeling off this label. Well, there is no such glue. It doesn't exist. So the real challenge was we had to invent it. So, through our team, we've had some long-term collaborators, both chemists, engineering groups, and we were able to develop, a glue that does just that. It's sort of deceptive. And this is another thing that I love about design. Like, you look at it, it's a pretty bottle. It's got a great vodka in it. And that experience that you have when you remove the label and turn it from a piece of packaging to a decorative, useful object in your home, it's invisible to you. The months and months of labor and research and R&D that went into creating a glue, which didn't exist, is really sort of the impactful part of this project. And again, something that no one knows unless I'm here telling you. By the way, we did end up making jet fuel. So here we are. Long walk from my vodka, but we got there. And thank you. This project, I think this is absolutely my most recent, just really, really fresh. Like the last week and a half, we finally got to the point where we are now. And it is probably the most challenging, no, it's definitely the most challenging project I've ever worked on. But it's also I think the one that's the most clear understanding of what I mean when I say at the intersection of design, innovation, and sustainability. I mean, it's literally is a living embodiment of this. Now, like a lot of great solutions to problems you solve, it started from a problem that I was having. I purchased a home, and while I was renovating it, I wanted to make it, given my principles and who I am, 100% positive generating energy, 100% carbon neutral, all the work that you would want to have in a home that you are going to inhabit the rest of your life. Well, I started working with Tesla to do solar tiles, the actual tiles on the roof. Aesthetics are important to me. I just didn't want to plop on some solar panels. I wanted a beautiful integration of the clean energy. And after about 2 months of engineering, our results came back, and we would only be offsetting about 20% of our energy, about 22%. And to me, it just wasn't enough. I needed to find some alternative forms of clean energy to be able to power my home. So after a lot of research, I settled on small-scale vertical wind turbines. They're fantastic. They operate in low winds. They are inexpensive. They're very robust. But the problem is they don't produce much energy. So if I were to be able to utilize them, I would literally I'd need a lot of them. So I hit on the idea of turning them into walls. Like, what if I took a lot of them, ran them on down in lines as walls, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go out and build this. But what I did was I posted this concept, which this is roughly a concept, to my social media, and it sort of blew up and went viral. Several magazines, publications called, and Fast Company ran a story, and it just blew up. It was their most viewed story of the year, was this concept of a wind wall. And we had, all of a sudden, major multinational companies, governments, militaries, and literally thousands and thousands of individuals called and write up and say, we're really interested in this wall. When are you going to make it? And I thought, shit, I've got to build a company now. So, I pulled together a core team, brought in, a grown-up CEO, raised some venture capital, and what is 2.5 years? So many hours in wind tunnels, you can't imagine. A group of over 24 engineers, all the way from aeronautical to mechanical and electrical, and we have just released our Gen 1 product. The company is called Arriva. This is an actual working model. And so what's been very, very interesting about it was really what I think is the most compelling aspect of this project is that it is one of the first ways of visualizing clean energy being generated in a way that's conducive to placement in urban and suburban environments. Like the things we compliment, like solar. Solar is amazing, but it is a very passive experience as a viewer, as a user. It's there, you understand it's generating energy, but it's a passive experience. And by utilizing the wind and vertical turbines as they interact in such a way, you're able to visualize the clean energy being generated. It's meant to take, wind energy is typically reserved for offshore, places out of sight. Communities don't necessarily want large-scale wind turbines in their municipality. And so this approach uses the tools of design to begin to negate the negative aspects of a clean energy future and bridge it to the more positive aspects of what design can bring to any system. And so, that's sort of in conclusion, that is, largely my attempt to be able to explain how having this setting guide of core principles can allow you to bridge across different disciplines, maybe come out of the way that where you're normally comfortably operate, because you always know that you have this tether to your work, this tether to your explorations. And, just like in life, if you don't have a set of guiding principles, there's no telling what you'll do or where you end up. I think it's extraordinarily important to define that in your work, no matter what it is that you do. And well, that is largely my presentation. So.